Morning. Hello. Happy Wednesday to you all. I'm going to just make sure I've got the chat opened up in case anybody's catching this live and you want to ask me some questions right now. I'll do the whole live, and then if there are any live questions, then I'll answer them. Otherwise, feel free to pop any comments in and I'll get to them later. So hello and welcome. It's August already. It's flying by. I can't believe it, right? Next thing you know, it's going to be back to school, which is the theme of today's live. I'm going to talk about back to school and attitudes. It's a good story, I'll tell you. There's a backstory. And if we haven't met before, hello, my name is Tara. I'm Christian wife, homeschool mom of many. I'm blessed to have 10 children and one more on the way. And true story, I had never even heard about homeschooling until I was 25 years old at Bible college in the States. I'm in Canada. That's where I'm from, where I am right now. So yeah, I'd never heard of homeschooling. I thought someone was pulling my leg when we were just chatting in the cafeteria one day, and they were like, oh yeah, I was homeschooled. I was like, what? Like, what is that word? I'd never even heard of it. No kidding. I went to Catholic school, high school as well in Canada. So I literally never knew anybody who homeschooled. I think I knew some people who like alternative schooled, who like maybe I never thought of it as homeschooling. Like they took like a year off, but then they came back. I went to an alternative high school as well because I had some rough years in high school and just didn't really fit well in the system. But I'd never heard of homeschooling. So I thought it was a joke. I thought that wasn't legal. And then I did realize this person wasn't just, kind of pulling the wool over my eyes. That was really a thing. And I began to notice other homeschoolers over the years, like who are now in like their 20s or maybe even raising families. And I would have been in my mid 20s at the time. And I was just like, wow, these are actually really remarkable people. They seem to have a lot of things in common. And by that, I mean, there was just sort of a sparkle, or if you will, kind of an air about them that was different than most other people I met. And it's a good kind of different. They seemed more self-assured, more confident, more comfortable in their own skin, just comfortable with who they were, more comfortable in worship, just more, I don't know, just more comfortable in their own skin. That was really my big takeaway. So a very positive seed was planted in my 20s of the possibility of homeschooling. But, another story for another time is that when it came time to actually choose how we were going to educate our, 3-year-old who is fast approaching 4, where here in Canada, probably in the States too, like they start kindergarten age 4. Yeah, I went into it kicking and screaming, but that's another story for another day. So yeah, a couple years ago, August rolls along just like it is now. I don't know if this is happening because I'm not super active on Facebook. In fact, I'm kind of new getting back into Facebook with this platform of wanting to help other moms of many embrace the blessing of children with joy and confidence, because my journey was not starting out with joy and confidence. Like I said, didn't even know what homeschooling was, and certainly wasn't prepared for motherhood and just wrapping my head and my heart around that from a Christian perspective, so that it wouldn't be, gritting my teeth and hating it every step of the way, but instead joyful and confident, right? So yeah, in August, I was like, I remember a couple years ago, maybe my oldest was about 8 or 9. So I had like, 7 under 7. That's what I would have had at that point in my life, or getting pretty close to having like 8. And I started to see these like hashtags in other moms' posts, and it was like, kind of a countdown, like super excited. And I didn't get it at first because they were hashtagging BTS, which I'd never heard of that acronym before. And I was like, what are they talking about? I actually Googled it because I felt a little dumb asking. And so it's like not the Korean pop band that some people might be familiar with. I don't listen to Korean pop, but do what you like, I guess, for music. Not my thing. But it turns out, you may already know, it meant back to school. And understandably, these moms who sent their kids to, outside school, I guess I would call it, right? Like public school, Catholic school, whatever, just not homeschool, basically. They were counting down. And like, I get it. I can totally appreciate counting down until you're going to get a break, right? So I wasn't like harsh and judgmental or thinking like, oh, I homeschooled, I'm so superior to you. Like, I've never had that attitude of like moral superiority to my my peers, my counterparts, whether they're Christian or not. I just observed it. And at the same time, I felt a whole bunch of feelings, not towards them, just like inside of me as I processed their joy, their excitement, their apparent relief of like, come on back to school, right? It was just like, I can't get these kids out of my hair fast enough. Like, I am so done with summer. get these kids back to school. And basically the theme was get them out of the house, like get them away. They can go back to school and I can have, space and quiet and get back to work and just not have the kids at home all the time throughout, the 2 month long summer. And it stirred some feelings in me. Like I said, not towards them, but just reflecting of what that meant for me. Because BTS doesn't exist for the homeschool, for the homeschooler. Like not in that sense of the kids going away. In fact, for me as a homeschooler, especially with like 7 kids in the house and most of them not homeschooling yet, I was learning in the fire of young parenthood, young big family parenthood, how to juggle it all. Like I'd never heard of homeschooling. So this was a massive learning curve for me to figure out how we were going to homeschool with little kids in the house in our 3-bedroom townhouse we were living in at the time. So it was a lot. And BTS for me was kind of like, I wish, and I don't really wish because I'm quite committed to homeschooling. And like I hinted at, I started out kicking and screaming, but I'm not there today. And that's another story for another time. What I want to talk about today is if you're seeing some of the BTS countdowns, or if you're sending your kids to school, back to school yourself, I don't think homeschooling is the only way for a Christian to raise their children. I think there's definitely like pros and cons, risks and benefits to every educational approach. And there's quite a few of them today, which is amazing, especially like in North America, where by and large homeschooling is legal and there's lots of opportunities and options available for alternative ways than just public school or Catholic school, which were like the only two really when I was growing up. And it was like French or English. That was it, because I'm in Canada. Anyway, I just want you to know, in case anybody's wondering, if I'm, one of those kind of homeschoolers who's kind of so brand loyal to homeschooling that I have a superior complex. I don't. So I just wanted to talk to the moms who might be feeling, as August is ramping up, it's back to school for some, it's back to homeschool for some. And wherever you are in that group, I just want to encourage you to, like, if you're feeling understandably excited to send the kids away, I get it, because when my kids are going for a day visit or an occasional sleepover at my mom's, I look forward to that and I don't feel guilty about that. And it's, I think, really understandable as a mother, especially a mom of many, and having young kids particularly, right? Like 10 and under, that's a really intense season. It is. Even with joy and confidence and the grace of God, it's still like demanding. It's still intense and full time. So I totally understand the countdown. At the same time, I want to encourage you, if you're sharing that, in private conversations, or especially on social media, to maybe just consider your attitude of kind of if, and it may not be you, or maybe you're reading other people's back to school posts and they're clearly could not be happier that the kids are going away. So just a sort of a loving check your heart kind of moment. And if other people are super excited, but you're like, the kids are going back to school and that's okay. But you're not like bragging about it. You're not living for it. Your whole salvation doesn't depend on it. The kids for you, you're like, it's okay that they go to school. They're safe. I'm comfortable with the decision we made. Great. And if you're reading those posts, or maybe even thinking of making one of those posts, I would just caution against that, because there's a deeper heart attitude there of kids being a problem fundamentally, that, it can be confusing, especially to an outside younger reader, maybe a younger mom who's just like, confused, like I was in my early years, and thinking, yeah, kids really are the problem. And the less you have, the better. And the sooner they get away from you, the better. And then I can have my real life and my real identity and my real value and purpose. And I can really get about the business of glorifying God separate from my children. It can be very confusing in the early years. And the whole BTS, get rid of the kids, finally they're gone. I think this adds more weight and more confusion to the whole issue. And if you are back to HS, I guess, back to homeschool or new to homeschool, or looking ahead, like maybe your kids are still really, really little and that's just kind of like still in the distant future, and you're reading those posts and maybe feeling a bit discouraged as I was, you're just like, I don't get to BTS. I get to like ramp it up and get busier. My life gets more complicated when September rolls around. In fact, September for us is busier than December, which is saying a lot in a big family, because, coordinating Christmas for family of 12 is it's a feat. And I am impressed every time I pull it off, especially when I had a baby one year right before Christmas. And this year I'll be having a baby right between Christmas and New Year's. So it's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna pull it off with class and style. I've done this before, so I have more confidence from experience. So if you're feeling like discouraged or disheartened, or maybe even a little sorry for yourself with back to homeschool, and kind of watching with a little bit of envy the other moms who are sending their kids back to school and high-fiving each other and being like, woo, summer couldn't have ended fast enough. I get it. And I think you're catching what I'm throwing down of like, guard your heart against that envy, because that can breed some bitterness. That, bitterness is always going to bear fruit, more fruit of bitterness. And then eventually you're just going to have this like orchard of bitterness. And that goes down a road that's really painful and awful and leads to all kinds of really serious problems in your body and your mind and your family, right? So I caution you against the envy. At the same time, it's totally okay to acknowledge that you have chosen this road and it's a good road, and there's honor and beauty and joy in that path. And I would just encourage you, maybe you just need an encouragement to like re-embrace that, maybe reorient to yourself, sort of ground yourself again, why you're choosing to homeschool or will be choosing to homeschool, because you have your reasons. And if you haven't clarified your why, oh my goodness, I'll do another live on that, because that was huge for me to hold the road, right? Because I was the kicking and screaming into homeschool person. So yeah, I just want to encourage kind of the two main groups when it comes to August, back to school. If you're sending your kids to school, or if you're having school at home, whatever you've chosen to do, just to keep it really Romans 12. And what I mean by that is when we're told to not conform anymore to the pattern of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of our minds. And that way we can know the good, pleasing, and perfect will of God. To just, whatever you're doing, be doing it for the glory of God. And be careful about the posts you write, and be careful about the posts you read and kind of how you choose to take them. Just kind of keep your eyes fixed on Jesus and what you're doing, why you're doing it. You don't need to explain yourself to other people and justify your reasons. If it's clear in your heart between you and God and your husband, that's good enough as far as I'm concerned, right? Then you're living according to Romans 14. You rise and fall to your own master. You don't need to explain yourself and get, the public approval or the group approval or your social group's approval for what you're doing. Just hold the road, hold the line, and be confident in what you're doing, how you're educating your children, and just kind of lift your head up no matter how you're doing it, because you love your kids. You're doing your best to raise them in the fear and admonition of the Lord, however you're doing it. Just don't let the BTS hashtag post get you down, and try not to be one that's actually contributing to that. If maybe that wasn't your intention, but when you think about it, you're like, ooh, maybe it could be taken that way, right? Just a thought. So anyway, look forward to reading your comments below. I just wanted to share that with you. And hey, this is the big week. I've launched my website, and I'm so excited to share that with you. I've got lots of free goodies in there. I've got a free guide on overcoming fear, especially if like homeschooling is something maybe you're scared of, or having a big family or whatever, right? Because Christian women, we deal with fear. We're human, we deal with fear. It's how we're going to deal with it. So I got a free guide on how I deal with it. It has been really just a very gentle yet constructive way to address fear in a scriptural way. If you want to check that out, it's there. I've also got like top tips on how I do home management with a big family. And yeah, I've also got a blog in there off the top of my head, just like there's lots of goodies in there that are completely for free. So go ahead and check them out. That I'm going to put the link below, but it's Tara Lee Hills, that's my whole name, .com. And yeah, I'd love to like connect with you more in that forum. So feel free to check it out. Also, last thing I'll say before I sign off is, if you're really enjoying this, the content I've been giving now for the last 6 weeks and will be continue to do for the foreseeable future, please feel free to invite some other mom friends. There's like an invite button right up in the corner of the Facebook group, and you can just click away. If you feel comfortable doing that with other moms that you know in your life that you're like, yeah, this has been really blessing me, might be a blessing you, right? They choose whether they accept the invitation or not. So it's just a gracious invitation. And I know how much I would have appreciated that as a younger mom on my journey as a mom of many, to have like that referral from somebody who can vouch for someone or something else. That's super valuable. It means a lot to me even today, right? So feel free to check out the website and to invite other mom friends that you think would be blessed by this, even if they're not like carbon clones of me or of you. That's cool, because I'm talking about we're all moms, we're all on the journey, and we could all use some encouragement and some advice on the way, right? So that's what I got for you today. Thank you for checking in with me. Hi, Rebecca Redmond Ayer. Good to see you. Thank you for the congratulations on my new website launch. Yeah, I'm super excited about it. Have you been on it? Go ahead and check it out, babe. It's really, really sweet, and I'm so excited about it. And the free stuff is fun. And I've got a whole bunch of mini courses I'm working on this month to answer all the questions and give some real deep dives into the things that, you know, women are like, how do you do this? Like, how do you do groceries? That was a big one yesterday. I got tons of feedback on that. People are like, how do you do your meal planning and your groceries and keep it on a budget? I'm like, oh, I want to talk to you about this. So I'm going to put together a mini course on that so I can really answer all the questions and take the time it takes to really answer that thoroughly. Super excited about that. Awesome. Hey, thanks. I'm glad you checked it out. Love it. Well, my time's up. I'm going to sign off. It was great to connect with you all today. And if you're catching this later, and I'll be back here on Friday at 11 o'clock. So until then, God bless you. Take care and have a great week.